And we have brand new details just coming in the Roy Moore case tonight as he is speaking out, fighting to hold on to his candidacy after the Washington Post reported a sex scandal involving a 14-year-old girl. Moore is getting pressure on all sides. A torrent of U.S. senators have told him that he needs to step aside. The Republican fundraising arm has now cut him off, but he is not backing down. Here he is a short time ago. See what you think about this with Sean Hannity.
It never happened, and I don't even like hearing it because it never happened, and they're doing this a month away, 4 weeks away, after 40 years in public service. I've run 5 successful campaigns, statewide campaigns, 3 in the county. This has never been brought up. They're bringing it up because it's political. It's a direct attack on this campaign, and it involves a 14-year-old girl, which I would have never had any contact with. This is a completely manufactured story meant to defrock this campaign. And they're losing. They're 11 points behind. They don't like my acknowledgement that there is a God, and that we've refused to debate them because of their very liberal stance on transgenderism in the military and in bathrooms. They're desperate. If you abuse a 14-year-old, you shouldn't be a Senate candidate. I agree with that, but I did not do that.
You don't recall ever dating any girl that young when you were that old?
I've said no.
And you think that's inappropriate, too? That's what you're saying?
Inappropriate, yes.
So there are calls, as I mentioned, for him to step down, and they are growing on both sides of the aisle tonight. Here now, Guy Benson, townhall.com, political editor and Fox News contributor, and political commentator Dr. Wendy Osefo. Welcome to both of you. So, there are political questions here. There are ethical questions here. But the bottom line is, will he be able to stay in this race, Guy, and should he?
Well, I think the first question will come down to a few things. First of all, they're going to poll this stuff over the weekend. Does it settle down at all for them? They're going to keep a close eye on public opinion. Will there be more accusers coming out, continuing the drumbeat? And also, one of the things that Roy Moore said in that interview with Sean Hannity was that he never even met the woman making the most serious allegation about him involving molestation when she was 14 and he was 32. He said, I never met her. If there's additional evidence that comes out disproving that claim, I really do think he's finished. And Martha, one other point, listening to that interview with Sean, who asked some really tough questions, he said, did you ever date anyone in their teens when you were that age? And to my ears, Roy Moore did not say no. He sort of hedged and said that would not be normal behavior for me. It was not a clear, if I'm asked, have you ever been on a date as a 32-year-old with a high school student? The answer is definitely not, and I did not hear that.
It is. Obviously, Wendy, there's a lot of Republicans that are calling for him to step aside. It's not been a great week for Steve Bannon, who had a tough night on Tuesday night, and now this is the candidate that he's backed. He's standing by him tonight. In fact, he's speaking in Charleston this evening, and we're going to wait for comments from Steve Bannon. We expect to get those shortly. What do you think?
In this climate where sexual allegations have run rampant like wildfire from Harvey Weinstein to Louis C.K., it has really been disappointing the way that some members of the GOP has responded to this. It has been a slap in the face to every person who has ever been sexually harassed, and almost a knuckle sandwich to anyone who's ever mustered enough strength to come out and say, you know what, this is what has happened to me. But let us be clear. If Moore wins the election in December, he will be the greatest thorn in the side of the GOP and the greatest gift to the Democrats. And for some people who are saying that this was politically motivated, there have been some rumblings that one of the accusers was actually a sign language interpreter for the Clinton campaign. Well, another one of the accusers is actually a lifelong Republican and voted for Trump in 2016. So let's not make this political. Let us make sure that these allegations are actually factual. And if so, then Moore does need to step aside, because this is not going to look good for him. It's not going to look good for his party. And with 2018 midterms coming up, this will not look good for a lot of people.
It has become political. Obviously, there have been people who've been accused of sexual assault going all the way up to the presidency at one point, as we all remember. So, this is not something that is unique to any party.
No.
But Steve Bannon claims, Guy, that this is, sort of a big hatchet job by the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos. Really, it's just going to come down to what the people in Alabama believe. And as was pointed out, they recently ousted a governor for sexual indiscretion. So they are, this is something that they're familiar with and they're not afraid to do.
Well, Martha, there's only a small handful of people in the world who know the actual truth, who have firsthand knowledge of what happened. This was decades ago. The question that voters have to make for themselves is, who is credible here? Are these 4 women who say they did not know each other, did not seek out the press, did not seek out the limelight, are they credible? Are the people that they told contemporaneously that have corroborated those conversations, are they credible, or are these denials, some of them hedged, some of them emphatic, by Roy Moore, more credible? That's what voters have to decide for themselves. I know where I come down. I do think that these women, I don't know if he's guilty or not, I don't know if he did these things or not. At least to me, these are credible, serious allegations, just like I have believed that there were serious, credible allegations against Bill Clinton on the other side of the aisle. And the Democrats, if they want to get into high dudgeon about Roy Moore, that's fine. They have some issues on their own side, too.
Yeah, but the people get to vote, and they get to listen to what he said and decide for themselves whether or not they believe him or whether they believe these women. And that's what it's going to come down to. Stand by, you guys, because also tonight, this political fight that we've been watching play out of a very different kind, bruised, dirty, and barely able to breathe or speak. That is how a friend says he found Senator Rand Paul moments after he was brutally attacked this week by a neighbor. Doug McKelway lays it all out for us from Bowling Green to Kentucky tonight. This is a bizarre story, Doug.
It really is a bizarre story, Martha. And right over my right shoulder right now, you can see the home of Dr. Rene Boucher, the alleged attacker of Senator Rand Paul. He is not there. He's not been there all day since his arraignment yesterday. He is under a restraining order, which requires him to keep a distance of 1,000 feet away from Senator Paul at all times. His attorney told me today that he's gone away because he doesn't want to unintentionally violate that restraining order. His lawyer also told me today these things, that this was a regrettable incident stemming from a long-standing dispute over property and an unkempt lawn. He said that Paul was aware of the presence of Boucher at the time the attack happened. That's contrary to some of the reporting we've seen. He also said that he freely admits that Boucher tackled a United States senator. Here's more of what he had to tell me.
That's not how I would describe it. That's not how it has been described to me.
Were they facing each other?
It's my understanding, yes.
And did Senator Paul strike blows with Mr. Boucher, Dr. Boucher?
Not that I'm aware of.
A longtime neighbor of Paul who invited us into their home last night said that the Pauls, both Kelly and Rand, are great neighbors. They've lived here for anywhere from 15 to 20 years. They keep a very tidy lawn. They engage with their neighbors quite frequently. They're very, very friendly. They're conscientious about them. They're concerned about them, not just neighbors, but also their constituents. Here's what he had to tell me.
If my tulips die and I don't cut them in time, or if my leaves get too thick before I can get them blown away and carried out, I would hate to think that I would be attacked for something that minute.
And in a statement earlier this week, Paul's office derided that statement from the defense attorney, saying that these two men had not had a conversation in years. The first conversation they had was after Senator Paul's ribs had been broken. A state trooper told us today that these charges of misdemeanor simple assault could very well be elevated later this weekend or perhaps next week. They could be elevated to a more serious felony charge when the medical records are delivered from the hospital where he was treated to the attorney's office, the state's attorney's office. And there's also a very good chance of federal criminal charges being filed against Boucher. The attorney for Boucher told me that earlier this week he met with the U.S. Capitol Police and also a field agent for the local office of the FBI. Martha, back to you.
Wow, quite a story. Doug McKelway, thank you very much. Back to our panel, Guy Benson and Dr. Wendy Osefo. Guy, this is a very bizarre story. And when you hear it from a neighbor who spoke to Rand Paul, who brought him into the house and called his wife, who was grocery shopping, and said, look, I don't want you to be upset when you get here, but he's in really, really bad shape. Claims that he came at him from behind. He was mowing the lawn with headphones in to, protect his ears, and he got basically blindsided, sandbagged from the back, and knocked down and broke 6 ribs. Then there's the question of whether or not this was politically motivated in any way. Do you think that's true?
I find it hard to believe that politics were not some sort of a factor here, because we know that the alleged assailant is a socialist. They had argued about politics in the past. So if it was not a primary factor, my guess would be an aggravating factor. And Martha, the other weird element of this story is this is a sitting, high-profile U.S. senator who ran for president who was violently assaulted on his property, and the media coverage has been scant at best overall. I don't understand that. That's very weird to me.
Yeah, I guess we're getting used to violent, crazy behavior. Wendy, what do you think?
I think that there has been a lot of plot twists in this story, and I think that the American people really deserve to have answers. As Guy said, this is a sitting U.S. senator who did run for office, and then we hear rumblings of the individual saying that once she saw Paul on the floor, the conversation was there was some argument over lawn issues, but then they're saying that that was not the case. But I do think the American people deserve an answer. We need to know whether this was politically motivated, because no one deserves to be beaten and bludgeoned because of their political ideologies.
Yeah, Steve Scalise speaking out on that as well, and he knows in the worst possible way firsthand. Thank you very much. Good to see you both, Guy and Wendy. Thanks.
Thank you, Martha.
So while